Okay, folks, let's get this positioned how we need to have it positioned. And let me grab my phone. All right. So we have four GASLAND mobiles built. Five. Did I say four? Five. I had four built prior to yesterday. But I did not know what their stats were going to be. So we sorted that out. And, we want to make sure that we are building things the way they're going to operate. It's not important to some people. It is to me. So we salvaged the situation. I'm honestly surprised it was able to happen that way. But we were able to build these the way that they looked. And now, moving forward, this green one is the first one that I am building first. And then, figuring out what's going to go on it and then build it appropriately. Okay, so this particular one is... Let's see here. I need to go to my email here. Why can I not find it? Here it is. Okay. All right. So this is Mr. Green Screen. And Mr. Green Screen is going to be unique. Now, all of these vehicles happen to be 27 points. Why 27? I don't know. I built Leadfoot and it was 27. And then the next one I built, I wanted to keep them really close. And not only was I able to keep them really close, I was able to keep them exactly to 27 points so that they look the way they're supposed to. Hey, the Wolfman. So at that point, I was like, we're going to build this to 27 points as well. Because I know there's going to be different tiers of points that I have. This is the lower one. The more standard one. We've got a buggy, a truck, a car, another car, a performance car. All of these are able to fit with a reasonable amount of weapons, and significantly different, all for the same price. Okay? So this is also going to be a 27 pointer. Now, there's some vehicles like this one, the truck that's going to have the big boom bar in the back. I could probably fit it into the same category, but then the boom bar's not turreted. And it looks like it's on a turret. If it was like an open cannon, with it looked like it was fixed like that, but I want this thing turreted. Okay, so that really jacked up the price of it. So it's going to start going into another category. Along with that one, I don't want to jump ahead, but I do have the bus is also going to be on the other category. I have like a big city bus with graffiti on the side. Hello, Paul. So, Paul. Okay, perfect. You're from Germany. I need your help with something. So, no offense to you Germans, but I'm going to have a German name team. Okay, and they're all going to operate German vehicles, and they're all going to have ridiculous names. And what's ridiculous about them is they're going to be in German, and they're going to have insults, okay? And in particular, I found one, and I ran this by my buddy here, but I don't know how to pronounce this properly. So I need you to help me pronouncing this. And the name of this is called Backpfeifen gescheit. Is that correct? Backpfeifen gescheit. How did I do? I only speak Blitzkrieg German. That means, things that have to do with the Second World War. I know how to pronounce those things. Backpfeifen gescheit. So, what vehicle is that? Well, that's the Vanagon with a freaking attitude. And I was looking for really long German names. And it means something like, a slap upside your face or something like that. A slappable face. I'll read what it says here. It's a colloquial and somewhat humorous insult. It translates to a face that needs a slap. That's like, in English, one thing that we say, fuschend. Messed up all that, this part you messed up on. Fuschend. Yeah, this is equivalent in American. In English, we like to say that guy has a punchable face. Somebody who's a pain in the butt, punchable face. So that's this little Vanagon. This Vanagon that is just, it's got like air. It's got like air areas it can go. It's like an aerodynamic Vanagon. That's what it looks like to me. Again, this is one we're gonna work with these colors. I mean, it's beautiful. There's no reason to not use the colors that are there because some of these things are painted, really well. Now, something like this redneck pickup truck, that has all this off-road crap. Yeah, I don't know about all that. That's a little too much. We'll take that. We'll take that stuff off. But some of these have like little logos, like Bell and all that kind of stuff. We'll leave them. These striping, and there's no reason to paint over the striping and then put other stripings on it, So this particular vehicle, which is some kind of Cobra, I don't know what it is. It's called a King Cobra in the package. I should name one Blitzkrieg. It's too standard. It's too, everybody knows what that is. Everybody knows what that is. And none of my German stuff is Third Reich German stuff. Okay, we're not going there with these things. I have different games that you can play that stuff with. They're all going to be, there's more to Germany than 1933 to 1945. Okay, so the BMW, which here in the United States, apparently people in the BM and in other places, people that drive BMWs tend to be a little bit of ass clowns, and so that one is going to be the little word that's called for ass fiddle. Arschgeiger or something like that. It's all humorous. I played the Porsche the other day in the game. But from now on, we are going to use vehicles that are painted well, with terrain that looks good, with vehicle cards that at worst they're on Excel. And they're already going to look like this. Tonight I'm planning on taking photos of these guys, popping them in the corner, and making some really pro-level cards, to use. Because these will be used the way they look, that way. If you don't like the configuration of them, I did like 200 tanks in like 2 years. Certainly I can do 50 cars, Anyhow, what's up, the Hoffman? Okay, all right, so this guy is Mr. Green Screen. So Mr. Green Screen over here has a heavy machine gun on the front, a machine gun on the rear, and a nitro booster. And an extra crew member. So it's got 3 people in there. Okay? So somebody that sits in the back seat, I guess. Some backseat driver. Wiener Schnitzel. Okay. That's got to be like, what's a Wiener Schnitzel? Wiener Schnitzel sounds like a little pain in the ass little guy. Yeah, no, that would be good. Wiener Schnitzel is... Where is she? something like this. But honestly, this is a bit too much like California Dreamin' for than German, because there's some groups that can use other stuff, but like German guys aren't going to use cars that aren't German. The British team, they're not going to use anything that's not British. Italians aren't going to use anything other than Italian cars. Stuff like that. The Mexican lowriders, well, there are no Mexican cars, so they got to use stuff that's appropriate for that. Actually, they'd be Volkswagens probably. They build a lot of Volkswagens in Mexico and a lot of what's the other one that they build? Nissans. They used to build a lot of Nissans in Mexico. I don't know. They might have changed things around. Last time I went down there, China went in there and took away a bunch of their industry too. They were building all kinds of stuff in Mexico, and went down there a couple of years ago, and that seemed to be the case. All right, so we need a heavy machine gun for the front, and we need a heavy machine gun and a medium machine gun for the rear, and a third crew member. So let's look at the machine guns that we have. And they should all be over here. This is not going to have a roof-topped weapon. It's not going to have a ram. Let's see what we got here. Unfortunately, some of these machine guns are huge. They're almost like 28 millimeter. Like here's a US 30 cal 19, and it's a heavy on the front and a medium on the back. What the hell is this? Almost like a drum magazine. You could do something like have something on the rear like this, blocking it. This is perfect, fits perfectly through here. It's almost too big. That's why I need to. Yeah, see, this looks exactly like an M60 machine gun, like out of Vietnam. It's massive. It's like for a 28 millimeter figure, Maybe something like this. Let's see what we got. This is obviously for the driver's compartment. And I specifically wanted to color match that one to the yellow. I'm probably not going to do that in every situation. Now, there's some cool stuff here. I mean, here's something for the back, and it's like a freaking porthole. There's some pretty cool stuff in here. All right, so we need to tinker with that. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go ahead and paint this engine because that's going to need to dry, and all these chrome parts. All right, so we're going to come in here with the darkest metal I have that's not rough iron, okay, because that one has a lot of brown in it. So that would be this Warriors color, Iron Warriors. Yeah, this is massive. This looks like something like a transformer would have on them, like some kind of way out of scale thing. So the quality of their stuff is really good. Just the scale of some of it is just reminded you of Mad Max. Well, this is a game called GASLANDS, which Osprey came out with, and it came out, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and we kind of messed with it for a little while, and it's a fun game. We're going to do our first modification of it tomorrow. We're supposed to play tomorrow, and the first modification we're doing, for those of you that have played the game before, when you flip, you're not going to, or you wipe out, your opponent is not going to choose which way you face. Because all it ends up doing is every time they flip, they turn backwards. They turn backwards. They turn backwards. So we're going to roll a d12, and a d12 will tell you which way from the vehicle's front, like a clock, it's pointing. So if you roll a 9, you're going to be you're going to be at 270 degrees. And I suspect it'll work a lot better. Thank you for subbing, man. I appreciate it. If you like cars, and this is the thing, and I am gonna run these games. I'm probably at some point gonna run them live. I just realized today that I have an ex-coworker that's really into cars, and I'll probably, he's not a gamer, but I think he would really enjoy this. Because one of the things that I want to do about these cars, with the exception of something like this, I don't want to obfuscate what car it is by all the armor plates. So in other words, I want to be able to look at it and go, okay, now this is a make-believe freaking car. It is. This is an exaggerated Volkswagen microbus. Okay, but this is a Bronco. This is that Dodge Super B Coronet. This is going to be whatever the hell this thing is. You're going to be able to tell what vehicle they are. You're going to look at this and go, okay, that's a Chevy truck, right? Yep. Or a GMC or what have you. It's just, I don't know. That's kind of important to me. I don't know. Maybe not other people, but. I'm not going with the fluff that the author came up with for this. That's actually the thing I like the least about the game, but also the easiest thing to change. So I decided to put this, I put a little, one of those little Army Painter ball bearings in here into the Citadel paint, and it seems to help it a bit. I don't know, part of the appeal to this is maybe, since the price of real cars went up, I don't know, it seems like double. Only chance I'm ever going to get a new car is going to be like one of these. I don't want to pay those kind of monies. All right, and then we'll get the old Mithril Silver. Mithril Silver is still out here kicking. Mithril Silver is still out here kicking. How did you get a name like Paul? That's like those are gone. Can you have multiple people on handles here that have the same name? Maybe you can, because I was able to use my own name on it. I was thinking, imagine things are. I even seen a John. Like, dude, how many people want to do like John? Although some of you guys that have been with me for a while, you remember they had that one guy that came in as decided to use, you know, Mr. Hitler's name. I'm like, that's just poor taste, man. First of all, he's a dickhead. You know, he didn't even know how to dress. Plus all the other really bad shit he did, you know? Like, why would you want to do that? And he used his little icon, too. It's like, it didn't offend me. It's just stupid, you know? Like, not cool. Let's look at, I believe this is, let me make sure if I didn't keep the package. Well, you just look at the bottom, right? The bottom is, it should be on the bottom of it. Made in Malaysia. Oh, it's a Plymouth Barracuda. What? That doesn't look like a Barracuda. Okay. Well, let's see. So this is what I want to do. I want to take Plymouth, and I want to see what color the inside of Plymouth Barracudas were. Because that's part of the fun, is to look at, yeah, I guess that is a Barracuda. Is to have some reality to it. You know, man, you make it to some, ding. There's a bright-ass color right there. Plymouth Barracuda interior. Black. Black. There's some light leather colors. There's like a blue. Okay. All right, well, so let's do a green. Okay, one of these is like greenish. Let's do greenish seats on here. That thing's got greenish seats. Let's have some fun with this, right? Not like I don't have enough greens. What do we got here? We got black green. That's what we're going to use for this. All right, let's not rinse this out. This has a bunch of metal flakes. It gets into all the other paintbrushes. So we're going to take some of this black green. Let's get a new one of these. It's not like we have a shortage of them. I'm really enjoying this, like a lot. So, well, generally anything I do I'm enjoying, or you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. Kind of works that way. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of black. See if I can get away with opening this and not getting it all over me. Good. A little bit more. All right. We can use this. And it's not that visible, but in case it is, you know, it's nice to make the, and the interior of all these cars, of almost all of them, is pretty darn decent. It's better than most cockpit, 1/72nd scale cockpits of aircraft. I mean, there's exceptions, you know. There's some cockpits of aircraft that are just out of control. But they're better than, like, you know, Airfix cockpits, for instance, or Matchbox cockpit. Well, I built one Matchbox and it had no detail at all whatsoever on that Walrus. There wasn't a darn thing inside that cockpit. I think this one, the entire interior was chrome. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. The only thing that can be chrome is parts of the bumper, and, you know, these are in like a war setting, so that doesn't really work that well either. But I did do the stats for this one, so if I get this guy done, this could be one of the cars for tomorrow. So what I intend on doing is we're going to randomly assign what we're going to run, probably 2 cars each, which is what we've done in the past, Mitch and I, and we'll see how that goes. This is really our, let's not use white. Let's use a beigeish color, keeping it warm. That's keeping it warm. All craft paints. And we're not going to get to pick who it is, who we're going to have. And they play all differently. They should play significantly differently from each other. And they're all 27-point cars, but it wasn't intentionally done that way. It just kind of worked out that way. This looks pretty good. Let's go up one more level. Next time I go to the model meeting, this is what I'm going to be bringing. Oh, now you're painting cars. Now the car people will get all excited. The people that play stuff with, tanks will be like, what the hell are you doing? Because you got cliques. You got some people that do cars in the model meeting, and the other ones that do planes, and the other ones that do tanks. And sometimes some guys do everything, but most of the time they don't. All right, so let's see what this looks like on the inside. Well, it's not super visible, but you can still kind of make it out. Now, I notice that some of this is showing. So I'm going to come in here. Let's go back one shade. And let's get this console also like that. All right, let's add a little bit of that now. And do the console. And the great thing about dry brushing is it dries so quick. Now, I'm not going to put a driver in here initially, only because I have a limited amount of drivers and I have a lot of open-top vehicles, and the open-top vehicles have to have drivers. There's no getting around that. Okay, so now we've got that like that with a greenish interior. However, I also didn't get this part back here. All right, so we'll go back and we'll get that. Now the other day I was going to say the toy store. No, they don't have those anymore. The last week or so I've been raiding Walmart's and Target, dollar store, and stuff for different cars. And I'm sitting there wondering, these guys think I'm just one of those collectors? Because there's people out there that'll be like, they'll buy like every cool car and then they'll try to sell them. Like, I'm not planning on doing any of that stuff. We're going to take them, we're going to take them apart. All of these have damn really nice interiors. And we're going to make these little guys shine. And it's a lot of entertainment value for a mere pittance. There we go. There we go. So we can see some of that green that's showing in there. Okay. I want to paint them realistic-ish. Okay. And this thing you can't tell, but it's got a brown wash. I think I put a brown wash on it. I put it. Yeah, it's got a brown wash. You could tell in the engine compartment. It's light on purpose. So we're going to come in with a black wash or pin wash it and do that. All right, the wheels here, they're not going to have that little red trim. That looks a bit ridiculous. This thing, I think, was one of the ones I figured out an efficient way to take them apart so it goes together really well. All right. We're going to put a heavy machine gun on the front. So I'm thinking, instead of trying to put it, I don't want to put it on the roof because it messes up this whole nice stripe thing that's going on, okay? I could put it like this in the engine and it would probably work, but I don't want to use the windshields, okay? So I think that this is a double one. If I can find one of these that has a single opening in the front window we could just put it through the front window on the driver's side. That's some really cool stuff. And the same thing for the back. So this one, that one could definitely work. It could also work for the back. One's almost better for the back there. And I don't necessarily have to use these machine guns because these honestly are too, the angle is really odd with that. Let's see what we got from the other set that we have originally from Autokill, I believe is the name of the company that made them. A lot of extra like resin. Look at this. This needs to be on a Pinto. This looks like something that Gru would have. The Gru bomb. Okay, some of these. That's a regular machine gun, but to use that, you could probably bend these some. That fits pretty darn well like that. However, I almost have to sit the machine gun on top of it. Well, that has a center support area there. So if I did something, not that I'm necessarily going to use this machine gun, but if I put it out on the outside like that, that actually works. That actually works. I don't know how the hell you're going to change that magazine. This looks like an AK. It's the world's largest AK if you put it like that. So if you put that for the back, I'm fine not putting anything in the sides. And on the front, something like that would work. I could even modify, I could cut into this and put this sticking through it. What have we got here that's needs to look bigger than the one in the back? That's it. That's really the only think you're going to build a GASLANDS car or try and do a siege tower of sorts. Probably be too clumsy, maybe too tall, but it would look cool. I might just sit this next to it here on the engine compartment. That doesn't look that bad. This technically doesn't have any armor. It doesn't have any additional armor. Which when you buy additional armor on a car, it basically, you can add 12 hit points instead of 10. And it uses a weapon slot. So that's one weapon you're not going to have by doing that. So it's not like you can just throw a bunch of what they call additional armor in this game and there's no consequences. That didn't look half bad. That doesn't look half bad. Let's roll that. And of course, we're not going to paint things and then glue them. I prefer to glue everything and paint while it's on here. Let's put these resin parts where the resin parts go. I mean, this is a huge freaking weapon. Now, I need to start trying to use some of them. And if I really don't like the way they look, well, that's different. But I'll at least give it a, I'll just give them a shot. They're not poorly made. They're actually really well made. They're just a bit larger than I would have liked. So I want to do something like that. And these guys have the whole... Yeah, but it's just dancing out in the middle of nowhere. I think I like that better. Now we're going to glue these things where they go, and then we're going to paint them black, and then we will weather as appropriate. All right, not a fan of doing what I have to do next, which is using super glue. I'm never a fan of super glue. Can I leave this attached like this? I believe I can. All right. Okay, this is a bit too tall. So I'm going to tempt fate and cut a little bit off. Better, and I don't think I'm going to take any more off. Now, let's bend this a little bit. Not going to go put it in hot water. That doesn't, I'm terrible with things like that. They never work out. Now, I can not attach this right now. I can come back and attach that later. Well, I know you build GASLANDS, you build all the Japanese vehicles first, which I don't blame you. I'm a fan. I am a fan of, as I affectionately call them, rice burners. Well, that's race. No, it's not. They're freaking awesome cars. That's the ones I like. All right. Wish me luck. And I don't plan on not repainting all the cars, but ones that have a paint scheme that works, Like, why would I ruin this like beautiful striping they have on here? It looks good. It looks really, really good. Okay, let's just hold this for a little while. We know what I do to Gaslands? Maybe a trireme card. Well, there's stuff out there. I actually went looking to see if there was wrecks, because you can make a wreck dropper for this thing. You know, so it literally spits out. It has an ammo of 3. It spits out 3 wrecks behind it. You know, to get people to crash into them and stuff. But I don't really want to use a good car to wreck it. Although I may wreck one of the Land Rovers, because I got 3 of them, and they've been bought already. Now the question is, how do I know if this held? I think we'll just have to assume that it's holding. Okay. This one on the back, it's like something that would be on a Firebird or something. Right, it's pretty much only going to attach on the sides. So I'm pretty happy with the Switchyard Studio, other than the scaling of some of their items, which ain't really their fault. You know, their stuff's pretty high quality, no flash, you know, inexpensive. Good value. One thing I'm going to stick to, I don't want to put flames on the side of a vehicle that doesn't have a flamethrower. I think that helps. You know, like if the vehicle has flame detail on it, it's got a flamethrower. I haven't built a flamethrower yet. I haven't built any vehicles with flames on them. It just seems like something I'd like to see. You know, so the Mexican lowriders are going to have a lot of flamethrowers. You know, hey, they like hot stuff. I do too. I eat spicy food. I don't want to use hot glue or anything where I'm going to have to clean up any of this stuff. But I'm glad that putting the flat coat on it made the cars look significantly better and allowed the wash to stick to it. So the theory worked. Okay, let's push this up here. I don't know if this is going to work, but I have it in my hand. You keep these wheels from... They can rotate. They just can't rotate as free as they, you know, as they're intended. You know, we're not doing one of those 3D bot maker races where you want them to run free for sure. Okay, now this will be mounted like so, and then this will be mounted I don't think the engine's in the way. I like the green interior. It's nice. Not bad for $1.18. Okay. Yeah, there's no flash on these things. That's got to be the wife. Yep. And we will glue, even though it's going to be kind of pointed down, just by the nature of that window, the direction it's in. A trireme car. Turtle ship car. Now, it's really distracting what this thing looks like when you have all these pieces that are a bunch of different colors. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I'd have Legos, right? And I had the old school Legos. Like, we didn't have any special pieces. We had, like, the little astronaut guys, right, that came in. It was like a red astronaut, a yellow one, a blue one, and like a white one, I think, of the little shirts and stuff. You could switch them out and stuff like that. And then they had these, like, really big people. That was, like, it. I mean, you had little cops and stuff on there, but there weren't a lot of, like, specialty pieces, right? I've seen someone use a window screen mesh for this car's substitute windshield. I know. That's why I did on this one. It was a pain in the ass. Why was it a pain in the ass? Because there's hardly any tolerance between the plastic that's on the inside of the seats and the chassis. So even when it's really flush, it's hard to, and that happened to me yesterday when I was assembling this. I was trying to close it, and it kept pushing the mesh out of the way because there wasn't enough space on there. Did I pick up that Bronco for GASLANDS? No, I already have a Bronco. I already had one. I just showed you that one. Look at this thing. Look at this beautiful thing. Now, this thing falls off on purpose. And the reason this thing falls off on purpose, because there's two guys in there. And if I ever want, they're not glued in place. I don't want to glue them. And I have to be able to disassemble this thing. But I did this, I don't know, a couple of years ago, whatever. It's got two redneck dudes in there. And this is Mud Puppy. So it's got these rockets on here, which in the game are going to be treated like bazookas. So they have a blast. If they hit, they get you get extra stuff done to them. But this is a nice looking vehicle. I love it. I love the little headlights on it. Cute little thing. And yeah, this is one of the redneck vehicles. So we've got, or a free agent, whatever, you know. Because this is definitely this is going to be one of them as well. This is going to have the big cannon on the back. And I think I'm going to put, they're going to have rebel flags and all that shit everywhere. But I think, so that I don't get into trouble with YouTube, okay, I think I'm going to do the rebel flag, and we're going to reverse the colors. So the stripe is going to be, what is it, red? Yeah, it's going to be red instead of blue, and I may not put the little stars in there, And they're going to be the red Nix anyways, which Nix is red is a Nix is an X, so it's going to be the red X people. But they're rednecks with whip antennas and shit like that, But I'm not worried about my audience. You guys know me. Even people that come in here, the whole point is to make fun of all these people. It's like, oh, you're building racists. Yeah, we're going to make fun of how stupid they are. You know, you can't make fun of how stupid some of these racists are if you don't have any racist. Think about it. So, we pick on everybody here. But, there's auto things that come up in YouTube that'll, they'll shut your channel down without a person even being involved. Okay, so, yeah, this is smaller here. That one goes in first. Then this telescope's on the top, and the big, massive gun goes back here on the back, which is turreted. So you can... But that's the only weapon this thing has. Now, everybody has pistols, okay, but they're relatively limited. This is the only weapon this thing has. It only has 3 shots. So, and this is like 30-something points. Now, the vehicle that's going to go with equivalent with that one is the bus. I got this bus that has this graffiti, and it's a lowrider, and it's ridiculous, and it's going to be a ridiculous amount of fun with that. Okay, time for Le Soda. I will be right back. Well, I'm not even going to mute it. But core to this game is I don't want people to build their cars. Because what happened in a couple times that we played with a lot of people is everybody's trying to build a car. They build very similar cars. You have to worry about points. It eats up about an hour. And they have crutches. Like there's some things that nobody ever wants to, but everybody's going to want to put something in the turret. Well, this forces people, just like DBA, you have to play things maybe you're not comfortable with. I bet somebody makes a Flintstones car. I bet somebody makes a Flintstones car. I have something that's similar to a Flintstones car. This is the bus. This is fucking ridiculous. I love it. I'm going to put a ram on the front of it. It has a little bike up there. Yeah, you bet that bike's going to be painted. And it's funny because the name of this thing is called Ain't Fair. Yep. And it automatically has 8 guys in there. So what does that mean? If any of you guys have not played GASLANDS, what that means is that's 8 guys that can shoot pistols 360 degrees out of this thing. It's a short range, but and this thing is actually a lot of points, because there's one thing this particular vehicle is going to have, and that is the super amplifiers. Because there's something but it takes 3 build slots for the super amplifiers. So this is going to be, its main weapon is a huge boombox. It's basically what it is. It's a mobile boombox and the boombox part of it is really, really interesting, the way they designed the game. It gives people a shitload of hazards, and it can also take hazards away from people. I guess if you like the music, if you like the beat. But I'm leaving this graffiti on the side because it looks fucking awesome, And it says Ain't Fair. Yep. There's some really creative stuff already made. All you got to do is just, I have a good RAM. I have a shitload of RAMs. These Switchyard Studios make some excellent stuff. They make some insane RAMs. Look at this. I don't think I'll use this one. This is a bit too big. But speaking of Asian inspired things, look at this. It already has the eyes. It just needs a mouth. How big is that? It's getting this RAM. It's getting this RAM. It's getting this RAM. That's awesome. That is incredibly awesome. Yeah, so the bus driver looks through there. Yeah. Yeah, it's a boombox with 8 folks that come in that shoot. You know, it's got a clear top. We'll fix that. We're still going to take it apart. What's this called? Ain't Fair, made in Malaysia. Yeah. Well, this group of people is going to have all big rim lowrider vehicles. Actually, theirs will all have really big bling rims. So I know, right? It fits perfectly. We're going to have some fun with this shit, I'm telling you. Because we've had a lot of fun playing this game with vehicles that are just kind of all over the place. You know, without necessarily built for the look. All right, let's get some Vallejo primer. And let's prime these things black that are supposed to be repainted. Yeah, I have one of these lowrider things that looks like has little Dorito chips on it. Not really, but that's it has like a Dia de los Muertos kind of theme to it. It's beautiful. Why would I mess that up? You know, I'll work that into, the look of it. You know? All right, so I have some of this. Let's take these red on these rims and cover that over. We don't need that. Of course, this doesn't cover with a shit. Now that I'm noticing. Well, I'll cover up some of it. When you end up dry brushing it, you won't see any of this red at all. So, there's some vehicles that are going to be, part of a theme. And then there's some of them that could, come in and help other teams out. But for the most part, it's going to be every person to themselves. Make sure we don't have anything on here to transfer anything over. I personally don't like to paint things first and then try to find a way to glue them and not mess up the paint job that you did before. I'm not a fan of that order of doing things. I'll glue them. I can get to anything that needs to be seen. That's interesting. This ended up picking up some of the glue that hadn't set yet. We're using shitty ass brushes anyways. Now, considering this thing has black striping, the fact that the main color of these things staying in black, obviously they're going to be, there's going to be corrosion and stuff like that. Probably is not going to look out of place. It's probably going to look all right. Already fucked up. Not a big fuck up, but. I don't do painting fuck-ups. I do different kind of fuck-ups. A little bit of hand sanitizer. Clean that right up. And this yellow thing, I wish you guys could see it as well. I'm a terrible photographer. I am. And I don't really have a huge interest in improving. I mean, I don't want to spend hours trying to figure out how to do it. I've watched a couple things and I'm like, I'll take a photo, take a photo 3 or 4 times, try to modify it a little bit, not to make it look like something I don't see, but to make it look like what I'm seeing it in person. And then eventually give up, because it's just like I could be painting other things instead of doing that. But I've probably gotten, I don't know, 30 Matchbox cars, Hot Wheels cars in the last 2 weeks. Not whatever. I mean, I'm like searching like that'll work. Okay, that's different. That'll. Haven't gotten to the point where I'm buying something for the wheels. I don't know if I'll get to that, but the wheels are kind of an afterthought. They make aftermarket stuff in 1/64th scale of wheels that are cost a lot more than the vehicles. I don't care about wheels that much. You do pretty well in your pictures I've seen. You post on YouTube. It's better than the average work. Well, the problem is what I'm going to call is kickback. Okay, I have a light source that's great for me to see it, but the human eye is incredible. I mean, nothing is as good as the human eye, even with having to use readers, right? Nothing is as good as the human eye. So when you use this lighting, it kicks back all the white noise back, and it alters the color of it. So it's just a bit disappointing that it doesn't look as good as it does to me or anybody in the same room. But maybe there's other ways to do it, but I don't really want to cheat and make it look like something it isn't. I just want people to see what it really looks like. Because I go through a lot of trouble so that it looks a certain way. And then you take photos of it and it's like, I wasted my time. To a degree. But I suspect that if we do games of this, it'll be popular, I would imagine. Because, like, for instance, I got an ex-coworker, I think, that would play this. Because he's a car guy. He's into cars. I just need to give him a wagon. He has a fetish for wagons for some reason. You know. I got brought to school in the 1970s and 80s in a station wagon. So I'm scarred about... I'm scarred about station wagons, right? But... wish I knew anything about photography, but I don't. Yeah. Well, and then people that know photography, they can't paint. I don't know. I mean, there's... not everybody can be good at everything. And you need to admit, listen, hey, I'm not good at everything. I'm really good at, like, I feel like I'm really good at colors. Like color tones and matches and what goes with what. But that's just like, yeah, I can't help that. I mean, I've only been painting 40 freaking years. And I know what doesn't work together and. I mean, the color match in that orange, that yellow, that was easy. That was, I mean, it took a lot of coats because yellow covers like shit. But the biggest problem is that the yellows are really watery. So it's not the number of coats; it's a lot of coats that take a long time to dry because they're watery as hell. Now we did add some Vallejo to it, so that made it a little thicker because the Vallejo paints tend to be thicker than the Army Painter, which is the core yellow, which is, it's Phoenix Flames. It's a beautiful yellow. It's a gorgeous yellow. It's my favorite yellow of all, that one. But I look at the paint scheme, I'm like, I got that car because of the color it's in. Just like I got this one. I mean, this is a pretty green. Yeah, this already looks Infinitely better painted black. Infinitely better. And there's going to be black lining and stuff inside this, inside the engine compartment. Right now, it looks pretty basic, but I mean, I already knew this, but the first time I stripped some of these cars, and these aren't stripped, you get a little bit better detail when you strip them, but there's some really good details on these. I don't know how the hell they turn a profit selling these only for $1. They had some really good stuff. We had a station wagon growing up, and we called it the Battle Wagon. As kids, it was funny, but looking back, it was a huge piece of junk. Which kind of station wagon was it? We had a metallic green Ford Town and Country, whatever thing, well, it was called. I think it was like a battleship. Ran on leaded gas. It's a 1968. That's the oldest car I remember having at the house. We had that. Then the next newest cars, we had a 1974 Dodge Monaco that had like a white roof that was squishy. You know, it was like almost like a terry cloth. Not really, but you know what I'm talking about. Spongy's probably accurate. Spongy roof. It was like cream colored, maybe yellow cream. Like that. And a spongy white roof that came on the sides. And then we had a 1978 Dodge Omni in silver. And we only ever had 2 cars at a time. So, like the Monaco went. The Monaco ended up being a piece of crap. Well, that's not true. We had 3 at one time. Even though there was only 2 drivers at the house. We had that Ford station wagon for a long time. It was kind of like a backup vehicle. The Monaco we didn't have very long. Apparently it had lots of problems. We got the Omni instead. So I guess we only had the Monaco for like 4 years. And must have been something really wrong with it because, my parents weren't like taking changing out cars. They weren't like leasing cars or anything like that. Like that wasn't even a thing. I don't know if they even did stuff like that back then. Even if they did, my parents wouldn't have done stuff like that. But anyhow, and then we had a Renault station wagon, which is an 81, was white. Had a horn. You hit the horn here in Florida, you can hear it all the way to Paris. Really, really shrill, high-pitched horn. It was a Ford Taurus wagon. Oh, those were ugly. My mother had a very old brown car and had a spongy roof, probably asbestos. Yeah. I don't have any monster trucks yet. I plan on getting the one that has a Pinto body at the top of it. I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. It could be like a suicide truck. Somehow I got to figure out how to drive that thing backwards though. Because Pintos and they blow up and stuff if you ran into them. So you make a suicide vehicle where it charges in backwards into people and it's an exploding ram. That's actually one of the things. Okay, now we've primed this in black. Let's give these wheels a second coat. Now that they've dried a little bit. I'm not painting a whole wheel, just the little red rim part here. I'm trying to take some shortcuts because they save me time, because there's a lot of cars I want to do. I mean, so... Oh, hold on 1 second. All right, let me go. I'll be right back in a few minutes, folks. right, sorry about that. Wife went grocery shopping, so I had to help her put all that stuff away. In other news, got to get going, okay? In other news, for those of you that saw my big unboxing of models, and the last time I did a big unboxing, was it a year ago? No, it was in April. It was in April. I got like all those Sherman tanks and all those things, and I built most of them. Built and painted most of them. I was having that issue with, well, we'll call it asbestos. I don't know if that's what that is, but the boxes weren't dusty. They didn't smell moldy or anything, and I just started getting I started feeling stuff in my throat, like I was allergic to whatever it was. And when I did that unboxing the day before yesterday, the same thing happened again. And I'm telling you, these are boxes that, I mean, they don't look like there's anything wrong with them, you know? So I think the instructions, I don't know, maybe there's definitely some invisible stuff in there that I was coming in contact with. And I'm not an allergic type person, but, you know, it definitely had an effect on me. So, and I mentioned that because I just went out to the garage. I said, I'm going to leave them out in the garage. And I went by that thing and I started feeling it again. So there's obviously something that's going on. There's bad juju or something, you know. All right, so at this point, everything is primed or painted in the color it's going to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some black wash, and we're going to go ahead and put some panel lining on here and make it really stand out, okay? Because the engine area looks kind of like, you know, like it's not together, okay? So, and that'll allow the primer also, the black primer, to kind of set a little bit before we come in and give it some dry brushing, which is what we're going to do. Make some iron looking colors. And I might try to actually color match this green a bit so that I can dry brush a little bit over the areas that are iron, and just it looks like the paint came off of it. I may do that, I may not do that. Actually, I think I probably will, because it'll be a good practice. All right, and it's something I've never done before. So, and we're here to get better. So, strong tone, where art thou? Here it is, dark tone. So we're going to get one of the thinnest paint brushes I have for this. And we're using all acrylics. No reason to use anything else. So it's a Plymouth Barracuda. Okay. Yeah, those cars are just weigh a ton. They got a reasonable amount of horsepower, but their steering on them is not tight. Non-tight steering. Yeah, these should work. Let's go ahead and pop this off so we don't have any extra stuff on here that's going to get in the way. And let's start in the engine compartment. Let's see. A little too tall. Something shorter than this. Here we go. And we'll get a little bit of water if we need to mix it. So we're definitely going to do some corrosion, and this is like the prime location for the corrosion is in the engine bay. But at the same time, I don't want the whole thing to look like a rust bucket, okay? Because, you know, they do need to race, and they do need to shoot at each other, and they do need to give the impression that, you know, if you don't just blow on it, it just falls apart. Like, you don't want, I mean, I don't want that. You may want that, but you do your own cars that way. You can do your own damn cars that way. Oh, yeah. Now, I use all brands. I actually prefer the Hot Wheels over any of the other ones, only because I feel like they have some of the things are exaggerated on them. And I think that actually works. Now, with that said, this is not a Hot Wheels, and this is exaggerated as shit. And this is going to be a cool-ass car, okay? But you know, I'm going to try to use the colors they come in. It'll also help me to remember what the hell color it is. Not on the interiors. There's too many interiors that are like chrome. Like, you know, can you imagine sitting on chrome seats? First of all, they'd probably be really, really hot. And it'd be slippery as all get out. Some guy with chrome seats. It's bad enough having that stuff that we had in the 70s. That, like the plastic vinyl or whatever. Almost like if you had like a grandmother or something like that that put the vinyl coverings over her furniture or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Like a whole car like that. Like, yeah, I can't wait to go on a long road trip on one of those. Out of topic, I've been watching DBA 3.0 games to learn them. It's fun. Well, I mean, the only reason I don't do them anymore is I don't play that game anymore. But they'll stay on this channel. You know, there's over 200 games. Did we make mistakes? I'm sure. We didn't want to, though. I mean, I actually do not like playing games and not filming them because too many super interesting, unbelievable things happen that it is a shame not to share that with folks. You know, I don't have anything edited, like, but it's too much trouble to edit things. Like, just show people what's going on, you know? And, yeah, it's a great game. But it was keeping me from doing other things, and I couldn't generate any more interest. People just weren't showing up for it. You know, worldwide, yeah, I was getting a lot of interest, but, you know, you go to a convention, and nobody shows up to play the game. And it's even worse now than it was 2 years ago. So, but it is a good game, and I plan on keeping those videos on there. It's got to help some people out. At least they can see how much fun we're having. But I'm really glad I'm not involved in that because, you know, this whole talk of a 4.0, and I'm like, you know, it's like, I already have a job I don't like. You know, I don't need to bring that kind of negativity to the game. And you know, it taught me a lot of things. It taught me a lot of things about about other games and what I like in games and what I don't like in games. So one of the things I am not willing to ever get involved in a game that I cannot change. And I know some people play DBA and they change stuff all the time, but I really wanted to go so you could go to tournaments and be able to already know how to play. Not for competitiveness, but just from being able to use the Army. And you can't start changing things and then do that because you'll get confused Or, you know, I'm certain that as much as we played, we would have come up with some house rules that would have been better than the original game. And then you go to a tournament to play them, and you can't use them, and you're playing a crummier version, and, you know, the experience isn't as good. But it's a great game. I learned a lot of. I'm not going to say I learned a lot of history, because it wasn't like I was ignorant to history, but I learned a lot of military history about periods that I didn't know anything about, just from the standpoint of having to research the armies and kind of try to, you know, guess, do a best guess of, you know, how would I paint them so they'd look different, you know. But I don't have anything against anybody that plays the game or anything like that. It's got, you know, the guys played it. I still went out to lunch and stuff. I just came back from the convention. I had a freedom to do whatever the heck I wanted to, and it's like I kind of need that, you know. So Mitch is still doing 3.0, and along with a bunch of other stuff that he does. It was just holding me back. I don't want to play DBA, for instance, and not build armies for it, right? I can't be like, all right, I got 40 armies. That's good. We'll just use these. It's just not me, you know. That's not me. So, and the only thing I don't want to do is I don't want to get into the, hey, what does this rule say? You know, like, you know, that's one of the biggest reasons that I got out of it. It's just like, it hurts my brain, man. Like, we're getting flashbacks of like Algebra 2. Now, Phil's a smart guy, but he writes things in a way that they're difficult for some of us mortals to understand 100% of the time. And this game's got loopholes too, but we're changing shit if it doesn't make sense. You know, we're not going to run a GASLANDS tournament at a show, right? This is going to be for us. So, but I do plan on filming this stuff. I'm not ready to do that tomorrow. Yeah, we were getting 10. We could get in our area 14 or 16 people to play DBA tournament, which is plenty. The problem is, oh, this time so and so can't show up because they had this, or so and so is on vacation, or this person isn't into the game anymore. So you invariably end up having somewhere between 4 to 6 players only, and you just can't improve it. You find somebody new in the area. I'm like, all right, man. It's like, man, this looks like a really cool game. Oh, you guys are in Florida? Oh, I live in that area. Okay, well, when do you guys play? I said, well, we play at a con every so often. Oh, I'll be there, and then they're never there. So, but it's nothing wrong with the game system. It's a fun game, you know. I'd say most of the games were close, and most of the games were a lot of fun. And of the 200 or so people that I've played, only 2 I don't want to play again. And this is for a tournament game. Not really a tournament game. I just want to be able to use the figures that I have. If I can't use the figures I have in a game, why am I building them? You know, so it was just that was really the only purpose. Okay, let's look at this. Let's see how we've improved this. Oh, the front of this looks great. Looks like a Nova. It's like a Chevy Nova on the front of it. I haven't even painted the headlights yet. Let me take a picture of this. So you can practice another time taking crappy pictures, because I am really a bad... Really simple, but... looks really, really good. I like it, man. Yeah, it's a shame to get rid of this black striping on it. Like, it's factory done, like, well. Like, it looks good. It looks really good. All right, now, we got these iron plates. All right, we're going to pretend that they put these haphazardly together at a welding shop. So the first thing they're going to do when they put something haphazardly together at a welding shop is they're going to use pot metal. And pot metal always has an ugly ass color. So the first color we're going to put on here is going to be this rough iron from war paints. Has a little bit of copper in it. Almost looks like halfway between iron and a copper penny. And that's what we're going to use as the bottom color on the dry brush. Now we're going to give, some people would call this an overbrush. That's what we're going to do. I may not like how this looks, okay? But this is what we're going to go with, and if it doesn't work, we'll just repaint it. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so we're going to come over here, get most of it off, and we only want to get this panel of plates, of additional plates. We don't want to get the machine guns. If you get some of it on the machine gun, it's not the end of the world. But I really try not to create extra work for myself. I much prefer to paint this on here than... And we're adding a little bit more depth by adding this little bit of a copper hue to it. I mean, honestly, I could probably take all these vehicles, spray them all black, and dry brush them with this, and then start adding other colors, but then they all start looking the same. I don't want them to look that rough. I want them to look like, okay, these vehicles showed up here for their first race ever. Okay, so we have a little bit of a copper hue to it, a little bit. Now we're going to come in with the next color up, which is this Iron Warriors. We didn't bother rinsing it. If it has some of the original color on it, that's just fine. We'll go to the one that we did first. And we're going to do, did I not put a glop of this down? Let's go ahead and put a glop of it down here. So we're still going to have some of that color underneath, but not consistently all over it. And then the same thing here. And the big thing is when I add the flat coat on it, it makes a huge difference what this looks like. What do? We put this here? Yeah. Okay. So we'll get some on the side. Now this is one of the colors that I use for the weapons. I know some people paint weapons that are gunmetal and using grays. I'm not there yet. I've never done it. I like how it looks when other people do it sometimes. So I haven't converted to it yet. Okay, now we go to the front. Now, still, the thing I like the least about this hobby is taking these cars apart. I feel like I'm skydiving every time I do it. I feel like it is really freaking dangerous. And I'm being super careful, but it's, I'm not a fan of it. Now, the last time I did it, I haven't had an accident with it, but I am super cautious. We're not having a beer while we do it. None of that stuff. You need to pay attention. I'd like to keep all my fingers. All my fingers are important. All right, you can see that it's starting to take shape. Okay, and it'll look better when you actually put the flat coat on it, because this reflectiveness of it, metallic, really kind of, it screws with your head, right? So now we're going to go up one more, okay? And this one is going to be Iron Breaker. I'd like to get this guy done today. You get this guy done today, we'll have 6 cars to choose from. Oh, didn't mix it well enough. This one's super watery for some reason. Let's see if we can get in here and stir the pot, literally. There we go. That's literally, if you want to learn some new stuff, maybe I'll have something, ideas that you don't know. I'm willing to give away all my secrets. Why? Because I've learned them for free for some people, I don't want to do a Patreon or none of that stuff. That's too much work. If other people want to do that, that's fine. That's too much work for me. Well, one thing's for sure, for this particular game, almost everybody can agree with each other. They all do the same scale. They all do 1/64th. I mean, yeah, there's some people doing micro machines, stuff with micro machines and things like that, but it's the exception, certainly. All right, let's see what we talked about. Mainly from the standpoint is I want to challenge myself to be able to match that color or close. Okay, so I have a lot of colors. This one might be a little bit difficult to do. So let's put different glasses on for starters. Let's see what we have here. It's not too far from this. Thank you. There's always fumbles. It's not too far from that at all. Festive green. What kind of a party are we going to have? And you just hear how watery this thing is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of this here. Okay? I don't know if I have any black. It's kind of hard to make out some of this stuff now. I'm going to put a little dollop of black right here. This might be primer, so I don't want to mix it with that. All right, let's get a brush. Maybe a little bit bigger than that. And none of these are expensive brushes. I am not a fan of expensive brushes. Cheap brushes bring peace of mind. Now, they can be too cheap, okay? But, you know, even these brushes, they're like 60 cents a piece or something like that. I mean, that's what I want to pay. It's peace of mind. Like, oh, I fucked up a brush. Don't worry about it, you know? Don't worry about it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I wish I had something black that I could dry brush next to it to kind of compare. Well, I have this, okay, and this is going to be kind of hidden. So we'll just pretend this is something on the vehicle, and let's just see how this color hangs out. So what I would normally do is I'd take some of this, and I'm specifically putting it on cardboard so it can soak up some of the moisture because it's too wet. And then some of the black, maybe not so much black. Something like that. And then I would do actually pretty nice color. Need to get a hair dryer here. All right, and then I would take more of this color, a little lighter, a little bit less black in it. Now this actually has a pattern, which is good. That'll allow me to test how this looks. Okay, and then we're going to take this color, say straight. We're about where we need to be. Except this is really watery, so it's going to take multiple steps to cover this. Now, we do want it to look kind of haphazard-like. That doesn't look bad. That doesn't look bad. What happens if I put some of this on this to clean it up? Man, it's pretty darn close to the color. It's pretty darn close to the color. All right. Let's give it a shot. Let's hope I don't hate it and have to redo it. It'll make the gun on the back, for instance, pop out more, for sure. Way too much black. Still way too much black. We'll start about here. I know, why did you paint an iron if you're going to do that? I don't know, I'm experimenting. Leave me alone. This is add-on stuff, not the factory finish stuff. Like I said, it's going to make those guns pop out a little bit more. It's certainly the one on the back. think it's going to look better. I really do think it's going to look better. Now that I'm kind of seeing it. I still want some of that iron showing. It looks better to me. It looks more like what I want it to look like. There you go. Because contrast is important. You don't want to paint things so realistically on a miniature that 4 feet away it just looks like a blur. It might be realistic looking, but you can't tell one thing from the other. Now, that's not my idea of a good time. All right, let's add more of the core color, as I like to call it. And let's go up a little bit more. And this might actually be a good way to do armored plates. In other words, go ahead and paint them in armored color. And then when you get them on there, then add some of the, try to color match them. I think it's looking better. So just from the standpoint of getting that gun to pop. All right, now we're going to bring the color that's the closest. Okay, and we're going to water it down a little bit because we want it to apply smooth like. We don't want it to get all chunky. Yeah. Yeah, this is exactly what we're looking for. This is exactly what we're looking for. And this is where experience comes in. Like, I've never done this before. And it's not that I know what works, I know what doesn't work. So I can avoid that stuff. You know, and then like, okay, well, this wasn't exactly what I wanted, but it got me in the right direction. And you just work with that kind of stuff. Craft paint. Craft paint. It's crap. It doesn't cover well. It's not very durable. We're going to seal it. It'll be just fine. And if it flakes off, we have a metal color underneath it. Should look even more realistic, right? Now, let me come around the corner with this. And we haven't added weathering yet. We haven't added the, which is easy to do, fun to do, and takes no time. We haven't added the corrosion yet, which is really fun to do. We're not doing chipping. I am not a chipping fan. I don't think it looks right when anybody does it. That looks really good. That looks really, really good. And this is a good practice because I can see having a vehicle that maybe I want it all in this color, right? Maybe I want the vehicle to be green. But I want the door replaced. Like something happened to the door and they replaced the door. So paint the door black, then come in with this close color and paint it and try to match it. There you go, you know? So little subtleties. And I use everybody's paints. I'm not beholden to one particular brand. I just have a ton of Viejos because I ended up selling a lot of hobby stuff in the early 2000s and used those monies to put back into the hobby. And what I really liked about Vallejo was the dropper end, which at that time, that was the only one I was aware of that was doing that kind of stuff. It, it looks incredible. I mean, it's just, and I think that's the right way to do it. I think make it look like iron and then put paint on it. But you won't really know how good something looks until you clear coat it with a flat. You really aren't going to know. That is such a magical step. Hot freaking damn. Yeah, I like these specifically this rough iron because it gives you the impression that this was put on in a welder's shop. Now, what happens if I put some of this paint on top of this? It's freaking invisible. It's the same damn color. Now, put a little bit of that. And I'm not one of those that's like, oh, all I use is do craft paint, or oh, I don't use craft paint. I do both. I sometimes use it. I understand they don't cover as well as other paints do. You know, you got to use appropriate care. All right, let's add the original color and a tiny little bit of this. That's too much. Just a tiny little bit. Now we're going to check it somewhere here. No, we need actually a little bit more. Where were we mixing this on? And we want to exaggerate where the light is catching this. Holy smokes, this looks good. Oh my goodness. If I could only quit my day job. And there's people that would just blow me away. But I love it when you're really positive about how things are going to turn out. They turn out even better. It's like, damn. Plus, you can come in here and do like, okay, we're going to put a little scratch on here. It's just it's a lovely color. Now we're going to come in and the engine compartment fade a little bit. This is the backstory of this engine compartment. Hi, Bob Ross says, oh, there's a little tree growing over here. Same thing. This engine compartment was left out in the sun, and let's add a little bit more of this. Yeah, based on this experience and the yellow one, and this one's turning out even better than the yellow one. It's also an easier color to work with. I mean, damn near any color is easier to work with than yellow. But based on that experience, I think I'm going to try to not repaint most of them. And we haven't added any weathering to it at all. All right. I gotta be, and there's enough green stuff on here. That's good because this is Mr. Green Scream, and this thing's gonna, this thing's got a nitro pack, so this thing can get out of freaking control. Right back. All right. But the flat coat is the big surprise because the flat coat allows a vehicle that's in the factory finish to not look like any different really than the other one. This yellow is the original yellow. And of course it has a flat coat first so that we can get the brown wash to stick to it. And then once everything's done, we flat coated it afterwards also. So we have all of that. All right. So at this point, what do we have? I think that we do weathering. We do some weathering on there. And there's no taillights, but there is headlights. And we'll do some rustification. And then we're good to go. And let me show you guys. Let's see if I can get an accurate representation of this, so you can see what I basically did. And that is, well, it'd be nice if it was in focus. Yeah, it's still kind of out of focus because it's not flat or anything, but you can see that. Look at that piece of metal, that was in metal, but then we painted over it, so it looks like they kind of covered it, but it's flaking off kind of thing. I think that adds to the look of it. All right, we're not going to weather super heavily. You know what we're going to do? We're going to try to do this. Let's take the same green. Yeah, see, this doesn't cover very well. This doesn't cover very well at all. So trying to cover up the little Hot Wheels things, which in retrospect, what I'll probably do is try to use some enamel to remove that with a brush this size, and just remove, no, not some enamel, some thinner. Should be able to take it off, but I thought about that too late. Okay, and let's hit this with just a little bit of lightning. And it's not covered up completely, but when we go and weather that, it'll just completely disappear. The other one has it. It doesn't bother me. And it's not like, oh, I'm ashamed that it's a Hot Wheels or something, All right. We have black, need some white for the headlamps. Okay, Paul, well, you're here at the end. We're almost, man, it's early in Germany. Das ist early. Headlights are really, really small on this. But what I like to do is kind of paint them like a dark gray, give them a little smiley at the bottom, almost like a crescent, and then do a white one at the top. And I've been pretty happy with those results. Yep, something like that. All right, we're going to head and do the rustification first. So we're going to use soft tone, light tone, and mid brown. This one is light tone. It's the more orange one. No, soft tone is the more orange. Nope. No, it's not either. This is the more red one, the mid brown. And sometimes I mix them together. Sometimes I use them separately. I don't put a whole lot of thought into it other than they give me enough variety. I don't care if the water is not completely clean. It works just fine, and I don't have to use the smallest brush either. Something in between works just fine. And you can cut these down however you see fit. You can come in here and say, you know what? I want this to look relatively corroded and stuff. It has no smell because it is acrylic. And I don't think that the enamels work any better. Fortunately. I like the idea of being able to clean my brushes for free. Not have to buy a product to clean them. We'll add a little bit of brown to the engine. It doesn't look the same color as the guns. Let's take some of this. The red one. We'll come in here and go around this. The door handle. This is really fun to do. I really enjoy this. And it's very forgiving. If I go too far, which has only happened maybe once, it's easy. Just come in here and scoop it up with a paper towel or something. But it adds a little bit of a tinge of a different color. I've yet to try this on aircraft, but I bet painting the entire aircraft the same color silver and then going in and individually painting different. I mean, I've been using these things for a couple years now. I am really comfortable with them. They're available locally. That little bottle lasts a long time. They come out thick, so you can thin them down however you want. There's a lot to like there. The available locally is important. Nobody wants to pay, you don't want to pay shipping for something like this. I'm not going through that much of it, but still. Okay, different parts of the gun with different things. You can take like, okay, well, we know that this ammo thing is a different part of the gun, so let's paint it. Even though it's metal, the ammo container. Get a little bit of a tint. Now you can do the same treatment to the inside of the vehicle, but hardly any of it is really that noticeable. So it's pretty much unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. Let's clean this. Let's clean this up a little bit more. We got this. There we go. Clean up's not really what I was looking for. Make it go together a little bit more. There we go. All right, now we're going to get to the weathering part. I don't go super heavy, and I do the same thing. I do all my tanks and stuff for Northwest Europe. I use the same colors. We're going to use chocolate brown first. We don't want to get one that's too big, and we don't want to get one that's too small. Yeah, that's got enough bristles. We need to really come in here and do a cleanup of these brushes. A lot of them have a lot of paint on them. It's not like they're not usable. I just need to remove that stuff. All right, so we're going to come in particularly in the wheels. Yep, I glued them so they don't move that much. That's it with this color. Don't need to go hog wild with it. Iraqi sand is the last one we use. We're going to use this US Field Trap next. And I think I'm going to glue this thing together with a hot glue gun. I think that's the easiest thing to work with. And like I said, it makes a big difference when you clear coat it at the end, when you flat coat it. It just ties everything back together. Just a little bit here. And then do the same thing with Iraqi sand, but even less of it. Should be mixed in from yesterday. And then as soon as we're done with this, we're going to go outside and fire up the airbrush and give this a couple clear coats. Kind of hold everything in place. And these are all 27-point vehicles, according to GASLANDS. They're all 27-point GASLAND vehicles. And the different dry brush colors make a difference. If you just dry brush one color, it doesn't work. Actually, the more colors you dry brush, usually the better it's going to be. The more well-rounded it's going to look. All right, so that's going to be her done, and you know, we're going to go out and seal her. It's going to look even better. These are the two vehicles that I basically cleared out at the same time. I took them apart, and yeah, it looks pretty darn good as far as I'm concerned. All right, folks.